home of Technology Vision Quest. You're listening to Techies Talking Tech Tonight, colloquially known as T4. I'm your host, Trey Comstock, and it is August 19th. That is a Tuesday. I am joined by our executive editor, Jimmy Principe.
Hello, all.
So, astute listeners may have noticed that there was no text last call from last week, and that this show is happening on its usual night. And so if you're listening to this on the Techies Talking Tech Tonight feed, you think nothing is weird. And if you're listening to this on the Text Last Call feed, you think this is kind of strange. Because of...
And that we're really late.
That we're really late. So thanks to a scheduling nightmare that has been my life lately, we're doing a combined show where we're going to spend some time on the news, and we'll also spend some time talking about tech tonight. So we'll start tonight with
tech.
With tech and with the news. Okay, so the news. The simple news is not much happened last week.
Simple news is welcome to August.
Welcome to August. It's about to pick up. It's about to go nuts. This week, next week, week after are going to be much bigger news weeks. But last week was a really slow news week. So Amazon and Hachette and the publisher Hachette are in a locked battle over ebook pricing that is almost not interesting.
What is old is now new again.
The only interesting part to me is like they're both trying to leverage users. So Amazon has made an appeal to authors and directly to people. Hachette has now also made a kind of directly at people.
Well, they're also getting the interesting thing from Hachette is that they're getting their authors to make pleas to their people. So, for example, Stephen Colbert. Mm-hmm. Hachette is his publisher, yep. And so he has made pleas on behalf of his publisher because it's not that he's made pleas. It's that people cannot buy his books from Amazon.
Well, he's made pleas on his show.
2 to 3 week lead time with Prime. So he's made pleas. People are really pissed in the comments, but it's the comments. So
it's the comments on the internet.
That's what's going on there. I think that so I'm just going to do a shout out to Tom Merritt over at Daily Tech News Show. He's an interesting person because he both does a very heavy technology focus, a lot of history with that, but also is
science fiction author,
and is an admin of the largest group on Goodreads, the largest for Sword and Laser. So he has a really interesting perspective because he's literally at the crossroads of this story. And as far as all the research I did on this, he had the best insight and basically said that Hachette or that Amazon is trying to get the Kindle. What's the Kindle? The direct to it's part of the program where you can do. Its name is escaping me, but anyways, trying to get the Kindle service that Amazon offers. Trying to get all of their authors to like say, "Oh no, screw you, Hachette. This is better for us." And Tom Merritt basically said, "No, you're wrong. Screw you."
Well, he also kind of points out that in reality, neither Amazon nor Hachette are on our side.
No, they're on their own sides.
Well, but it's even to the point in very
like screw the. Well, they're not on the author's side either. I think was his point.
No, they're on nobody's side. They're on their own side, and no one is on our side. No matter who wins, we lose. Either we get Amazon in a more dominant position in the market, and sure, right now they have better pricing because they have competitors. But when they assume both the supply side, being their own as growing their own publishing arm and handling the demand side of customers buying the books, they can set whatever price they want. And Amazon's an interesting company because they operate with very, very slim profit margins in order to start to dominate markets. Now, what that looks like is that's an
Kindle Fire is a perfect example.
But that's an old school monopolistic tactic of basically dump, sell at a loss, And then once you establish a dominant position, having run all of your competitors out of business, or buying them, which Amazon did with like diapers.com, for instance. They just created an algorithm that made sure they would always beat diapers.com, and then they bought diapers.com for pennies on the dollar. And so they do this, and then they can set whatever price they want once they establish that dominant position. So right now, Amazon is doing this from a like pro user, pro literacy, like, we're gonna keep the prices low so that more people can read for now. And Hachette's like, look, I mean, this is our model. And I mean, theoretically.
Well, the other thing is that Amazon's trying to get in front of the Apple negotiation.
Right. Yes.
Because Apple gets to renegotiate in this fall, I think it is. It's sometime this fall. I don't remember exactly when. But it's sometime like October. It's holiday season that Apple gets to renegotiate. And so Amazon wants to be the ones that set what the price is. They don't want Apple to be the one that sets the price. Right. Because basically if Apple's allowed to negotiate, they will, I mean, Hachette will just say, well, this is the deal we have with Apple. So,
right. And so this is the deal we're going to do.
So Amazon's trying to get out there in front.
Sure. Other story, there's the people who made Siri are going to make a new thing called Viv. What's interesting
it's a cool idea.
What's interesting about Viv is it's another voice-based data assistant, but people can write essentially plugins for it. So right now, if something ends up in Siri, it's because Apple has added it, or if something ends up in Google now, it's because Google added it. And we're going to talk about later Microsoft Cortana, and it's because Microsoft's added it. What Viv is it's saying anyone can add something to Viv. And so Viv's going to get infinitely smarter and theoretically end up with millions of things plugging into Viv. So Viv is a voice data assistant as platform rather than voice data assistant as narrow service.
Well, see, Viv actually, so my understanding of how Viv works is that it also basically learns how users use Viv. So
theoretically they all do that.
So no, but in the sense that Siri only recognizes specific commands, Google only recognizes specific commands, but that Viv will break down what you've asked for and try to give you some kind of intelligent response instead of just going to the internet.
So but part of that is more people writing stuff for it. Right. That's part of how Viv learns. Is this kind of, you can add your platform into Viv. So I can say, hey Viv, I want to post to Facebook about my dog Charlie. And so Viv will open up Facebook, recognize that Charlie is my dog, and then find the picture that I've recently taken of my dog Charlie, dump that into and post it to Facebook. That kind of thing. That she can handle these more complex things. The example they give is, I
got it pulled up. Do you want me to see if I can find it?
I'm going to a party at my brother's house. I need a wine. I need to pick up a wine along the way that goes with lasagna. And so Viv figures out the route from where you are to your brother's house, figures out where the liquor stores are in that route, and then finds the one that's going to have a wine that goes well with lasagna. And so it's that kind of super complex data stream. Now, Viv is very far from market.
And here's the other example they give. A command like, give me a flight to Dallas with a seat that Shaq could fit in.
Right, yeah.
And then it says, this is quoting directly from the Wired article. This is a Wired exclusive by Stephen Levy. Viv will parse the sentence, and then it will perform its best trick, automatically generating a quick, efficient program to link third-party sources of information together. Says, say, Kayak, Seat Guru, and the NBA Media Guide, so it can identify available flights with lots of legroom. And it can do all of this in a fraction of a second.
Theoretically.
So,
I mean, right now...
This is all an idea right now.
It's the people behind Siri. They left Apple, and they're still in this thing, and so they're trying to take the game to the next level by making it more of a platform, so that third-party stuff fits into it better. Because right now, none of the services that exist really do a good job with third-party.
No.
It's all kind of first-party stuff, and sometimes it's
I'm testing out a third party. We can talk about that later, but I'm testing out kind of a third party, and it doesn't work very well. That plugs in with Google Now.
Right. So this is I like this. I like the idea of Viv. I hope it comes to market, but meh. So Uber and Lyft. Uber is they're both car
the same thing.
Not people keep saying that. Uber has
they
a
have
couple
different ways of approaching the same problem.
So it's basically rides on demand, replacing taxi services. Uber is kind of more upscale, where you can get like a town car or an SUV or someone's normal car through what's called Uber X. I use Uber a fair amount. And Lyft is the ones with the pink mustaches. And they're more like people have their own cars driving around and they can give you rides. And so they're competitors, and they've been screwing with each other. So, like, Lyft executives...
They've been accusing each other of screwing with
They've been accusing each other of screwing with the other one. So, like, Lyft accused Uber of ordering and canceling 1,500 rides, and then Uber accused Lyft of ordering and then canceling 5,000 rides. And so, I mean, God only knows. Like, apparently, they're accusing each other...
Some say.
They're accusing each other of essentially griefing and thus slowing down the service. It's hysterical. It's pretty funny.
Yeah, I mean, Uber, I really am excited to try Uber because just recently Houston is finally an Uber/Lyft city.
I'm looking forward to being able to use. I'll be in Houston in a week. Actually,
in
exactly
a week.
I'm looking forward to being able to use Uber because I won't have a car.
Yeah, I won't have to drive your butt up to frickin' Cyprus, middle of nowhere.
Yeah, that's where I grew up.
It's a haul.
It's my hood, man. It's my hood.
Hood, yeah, that's what I would call it. Yes.
Yeah, no, I agree.
Trey does look like someone that grew up in the hood. I must agree with that.
Straight up, dog. Word.
Your professor would be so proud of you.
Yep. No. Shout out to Dr. Ellison.
That's really all there is there with Uber.
It's just a funny story.
It's amusing, but we're not going to drag that one out. Then we have Gamescom.
Yeah, so Gamescom happened is a European gaming conference similar to E3 with the added wrinkle that actual normal people are allowed into it. Unlike E3, it takes place in Cologne, Germany every year. You usually get a lot more firm details on fall games. And
it's a lot less, some say.
Well, it's a lot.
Usually what E3 feels like.
Well, E3 sets the tone for like a 2-year stretch, right? So you get a lot of like 2015 games at E3. Gamescom and PAX East are much more about selling the games this fall. So you get a lot more near-term stuff. And since it's a user conference rather than a press conference, you have a lot more like playable demos, and it's just a little more accessible. I would love to be able to go to Gamescom. It's in Cologne, Germany, making it more inaccessible for me. Because of the travel.
I personally would also like to go to Cologne, Germany.
Yeah, Cologne, Germany is beautiful. I remember going there as a kid. See, this is the more informal show where you get, wax. But I've been to
wax
Cologne.
Poetically about Cologne, Germany.
Yeah, I've been to Cologne. It's beautiful. I remember it even. The cathedral in Cologne withstood World War II, so you can see a lovely German cathedral in Cologne, Germany.
Which there are not many of.
No, a lot of them got... I just finished the book Monuments Men.
We bombed the shit out of that country.
The underlying theme of Monuments Men is, man, we blew up a lot of stuff. This is real bad. So both Microsoft and Sony had press conferences at Gamescom. I'm not going to run down it all. A lot of it is really super gaming-focused news. Jimmy, what stood out to you from Gamescom?
The one I really saw was the we're going to get a Halo game beta before the end of the year. Mm-hmm. Barely. It's December 29th. I've got it pulled up here. It's Halo 5 Guardians beta will begin on December 29th. And then, we've got 2 new bundles that are announced for the Xbox One.
Yeah, those are interesting in that Microsoft is already doubling down on kind of the custom consoles, so you can get
which they saved for late in the cycle of the Xbox 360.
Yeah, but they had some cool ones that almost got me to spend
really
crazy
did.
money.
The Star Wars
one in particular.
Yeah.
I regret to this day that I didn't shell out $450 to buy it. But again, it's $450. So there will be a Call of Duty Advanced Warfare bundle for the Xbox One.
Should be an all white one with
an all white one. Sunset Overdrive.
All white is really the more interesting part of that. It's black, so having something that's all white is going to be really stand out.
The Call of Duty one has a whole custom skin to it. It also has the interesting feature of a 1 terabyte hard drive, as opposed to the standard 500 gig drive. So that's interesting, but it is $100 more. Comes with Advanced Warfare. Is custom,
the skinned controller,
and a skinned controller, and a bigger hard drive. I mean, assuming you were going to buy Call of Duty anyways, that's probably worth the money.
Yeah.
You get a bigger hard drive out of that, and to me, that's worth it. So it's $60 for a game and $40 for a bigger hard drive. That makes kind of sense.
Now, remind me, was a bigger hard drive something that Microsoft had kind of originally talked about as maybe an option with the Xbox One, or is this a special one-time thing? Is this like an indication of things that we're going to see in the future? Like,
I mean, it's something Microsoft has done with its special editions before. There was I
don't have the background on those.
So in the Xbox 360 era, it had a different name. It was the first black one.
Well, but so all the Xbox 360s though, there were like a bajillion of them. Right. So I think that what's interesting with both PlayStation and Xbox, with both Sony and Microsoft with this generation, is they both released one console.
But console. So
same size, everything.
But that's getting back to the old days. I mean, the 360 and the PS3 in a way were an anomaly with that, where there was just started
going freaking crazy. But that's because if you look at the PS2, okay, the Xbox was not this way, but if you look at the PS2, it was still memory card driven.
Yeah.
And the original Xbox
was the first one to go hard drive based. Well, no, it was literally off the shelf gaming parts. It was a 700 megahertz Pentium processor, and it was a NVIDIA 64 megabyte. I think it was NVIDIA. It may have been AMD. I can't remember, but it was an off the shelf 64 megabyte graphics card, and an 8 gigabyte hard drive.
See, what I remember was that one of my friends, I may have shared this on the show already. One of my friends did Xbox modding. He would install Wi-Fi mods, and basically he had a list of things that he would do to your Xbox for this much money, and of course it covered cost of parts plus a nice little added fee.
Yeah.
And when you're in high school and there's a lot of stupid people around you, it's really easy to do. It's just, I don't even think there was soldering involved. I think that literally involved unplug, replug.
Yeah, I can't remember how modular that board was.
The Wi-Fi module, that was the most expensive upgrade that he would do, because it did actually require soldering.
Yeah,
that required soldering because it only came with Ethernet out of the box.
Right. Now, yeah, there were other ways to do that. I mean, you could get an Ethernet to Wi-Fi adapter, which probably would have been cheaper.
Probably,
not as clean.
It wouldn't have been as clean. Yeah, exactly.
Well, but the problem also is that the Xbox wouldn't have had software. It would still have to be.
You had to install drivers.
Right. I mean, that's
also known as the living hell that is the modern world.
Well, essentially it was a Windows embedded platform, which same as the Dreamcast, by the way. I just always want to make sure that we get that in there. That the Sega Dreamcast also ran on Windows embedded.
Trey loves the Dreamcast.
It
wasn't clear to everybody,
I do. I think it just missed. Like the Wii U, it just missed, and not because it was a bad platform. The Wii U is I feel similarly. The Wii U is getting a lot of use around my house right now.
Well, the Wii U is actually a good device.
It's a good device and has great games. It's just not
there.
No, it's nothing. It is at this point. It's nothing Nintendo's doing. It's what Nintendo did. Nintendo did not. Nintendo did not come out of the gate well enough with that platform. I think, looking back on it, they knew they had to come to market first because they were just going to get blown away technologically by the 360, by the One and the PS4.
Right, and there were enough teasers out there about the One and the PS4.
No, there was nothing. I mean,
well, but to be fair, the previous generation, they got blown out of the water too.
Not sales wise, they won the previous generation.
No. By that I mean
technologically.
Technologically,
in terms of graphics specifically.
But I think that the thing that they thought was going to play bigger is the handheld thing.
Well, it did. I
To
mean,
be
it
fair,
got.
That's
It
the
got.
reason why I'm considering getting a Vita, because I like that idea that I can play something that's sitting on my PS4 on my Vita.
I mean, I use that feature of the Wii U all the time. The remote play feature of the Wii U all the time. So I'll be watching TV and playing Mario Kart. That's what I'm doing a lot of. The problem is Nintendo rushed Wii U to market. The hardware was fine, but they didn't have a games catalog ready to go. And so there was a year, literally a year, where there was almost nothing to buy for the Wii U. Now we're spoiled for choice, and there's many more great games for Wii U than there is for Xbox One or PS4, and plenty of more expect in the pipeline with the new Zelda and Smash Brothers coming out this fall. I mean, there's a lot of great games coming for Wii U, but
unlike the other two platforms that have nothing.
Right, but they missed
coming this fall.
But the problem is they missed that opportunity. They should have had this level of games lineup in that year when they were the only next gen system. But in that year, they didn't make the case for it. Right. But they didn't make the case. Right. But they didn't make that case in that first year, and now they've lost out because people have already invested in a next-gen console, and they look at the Wii U as kind of, oh, well, I'd like to play those games, but I've already spent all this money on a PS4 and Xbox One.
And it's also still real money.
Yeah, I mean, it's cheaper than the other ones, and the games are beautiful. I mean, you don't... Assuming you're not playing cross-platform games, which why would you? Which you shouldn't on a Nintendo platform. Assuming you're not doing that, I mean, the games that Nintendo are making for that are absolutely phenomenally beautiful. They are really using that hardware. But they missed their opportunity to establish themselves in the market. They didn't take advantage of being first to market, which is hugely disappointing. Anything else from Gamescom?
I had to pull up the Sony press release, or the CNET rundown of the Sony press release.
We got gameplay of Bloodborne, which is the...
we got the announcement of 10 million consoles. That was news.
Yeah, and the rumor is 5 million Xbox Ones. So Sony is in a well-established lead.
So they're killing them.
Yep, absolutely.
But it makes it so
that no sense to me.
that makes much better for trying to get into the Xbox One game at this point, because Microsoft is going to start really going after it because they've got this thing.
Well, and also
they need to move some products because they see it. Well, it's okay. They've moved away from it as the box,
all-in-one, the one box to rule them all.
The world, but yeah. So I think that watch Xbox One in the next 6 months. See, I think that they're going to do some interesting stuff, as far as more kind of custom skinning, and I could see them even doing a mid-generation
refresh, or an early refresh,
bump to a higher terabyte hard drive and things like that. Easy stuff.
Well, and what's interesting with Xbox is it's not like it's doing terribly.
Cheap.
They've sold more Xbox Ones than Wii U's in a third of the time.
Right.
So like this is not a failed.
Still doing well.
This is not a failed console.
It's just
they're
that
behind.
Sony's doing better.
Sony's doing better, but it's not a failed console. Right. As opposed to the Wii U, which has great games, but it's not a total failure, but sales-wise, it is not a success. The Vita, I think, is a failed console, unless you really like indie games.
Well, in the Vita, I keep going back and forth on whether or not I want a Vita.
You don't want one?
See, you say that, but the only thing about the Vita that I keep going back and forth on is the fact that I would like to watch Netflix and play my PS4 at the same time. So rather than setting up two TVs, one above the other, which I've thought about, mind you,
about the same price.
Sadly, you're probably the Vita's $200.
You can get a TV for $200.
Okay, the TV I'd want to watch. Also, the wiring of that far too complicated. Because I'd want to mostly use the main TV.
Yep.
And also, if I'm spending money on a TV, I might as well buy a good one. Because my TV is 3 years old.
Okay. So it sounds like you need to buy a TV anyways, so you're about to end up with a TV that is essentially wholly secondary. So problem solved, and you just stick a Roku stick into one of them. And that way you can watch most things. Roku sticks are cheap.
Okay, so speaking of the Roku stick, I have an update on that.
Mm-hmm.
So I gifted it in the sense that I was like, "What the hell am I going to do with this thing?" To my girlfriend, and she's been using it since she moved into her new apartment about a month ago. And I asked her what she thought about it, and she's like, I'd been using the Wii before to do all these things. I really like the Roku stick. At first I noticed that it was slow, but it was very much that I got used to it. It's being powered. The only reason why you notice it's slow is because the way I have it set up is it's being powered off the USB port on the TV.
Okay.
So when you turn the TV on, it defaults. Most of what she watches is on the Roku. So it defaults to the Roku, so you just got to give it a minute to start up. But I don't even notice really the Netflix delays and things like that I was noticing when I was putting it head to head against the Roku 3. So the answer is the Roku 3 is better. Obviously, it's $100 instead of $50. But the Roku stick for $15 more than a Chromecast is still the better choice.
Sure.
And you should always it shouldn't be I could get a Chromecast or a Roku stick. It should just be I'm just gonna get a Roku stick.
See, I recently up in my country home, I wanted it.
Do you have a Chromecast?
No, I don't. Here's what I did. I bought a mini display port to HDMI adapter and an HDMI cable and hooked up an old laptop. And that works a lot better.
Yeah, for iTunes, yes.
Yeah, iTunes and watching web media and all of that. Like, that was my solution. Is I bought a Surface Pro 3, so I had a MacBook Air that was literally doing nothing, and so I just repurposed that and spent $26 on parts and cables. And
yeah.
And that works so much better. It gives me a lot more flexibility, and it was cheaper than an Apple TV, because the conclusion I reached is what I wanted was to be able to not just to watch web media, but to watch iTunes content, of which I have a lot of it. And I can get things on iTunes that I can't get on Netflix, for instance. I've been watching the series Silicon Valley, which isn't on Netflix yet. And I want to watch it now before season 2 comes out.
Now, to be fair, you pay for it on there. My solution to this problem, because I'm not bought into the iTunes platform, is I buy it on Amazon Instant.
Sure.
That's what I do with Top Gear.
Sure.
I buy it on Amazon Instant and then I watch it.
Sure, and
I'm going to be doing that with Parks and Rec season 7.
And at this point in history, it makes sense that I could do that. But up until relatively recently, Amazon wasn't everywhere.
They are now.
They are now, but they certainly didn't used to be. And they didn't used to be on, like, iPad, for instance. Now they are. And so that would make more sense. But now I'm so bought into that ecosystem that even if I start buying new content on Amazon...
It doesn't make any sense. I would stick with, at this point, I'd still stick with iTunes and then just make iTunes work on whatever platform you're dealing with.
Well, I mean, actually, I think it is better to buy into Amazon at this point.
You're starting off fresh, but you have such a back catalog in iTunes.
I just use both. Start getting the new stuff on Amazon, so that way I can watch it on, like, my Xbox One, my PS3, my Windows Phone. Kind of a wider variety of devices, because I keep running into this problem of crap. I can't get Apple content here, right? And so I keep needing this huge ecosystem of hardware to meet a very specific need. So moving forward, it probably makes sense to jump to Amazon. So the Ice Bucket Challenge, you stuck this in the rundown.
I did. There was a fragment, but I watched so Mark Zuckerberg got challenged by somebody. He challenged Bill Gates. He challenged Gates. I can't remember Oracle. What's his name?
Ellison,
and someone else to do it. But I watched Gates's challenge, and so first off, he's sitting there on his Surface Pro 3, watching the video of Zuck, and he goes, well, I have to do it better. And it shows him watching all these videos, and then the odd thing is that they didn't do it on the Surface Pro 3, which would have been a good decision, but instead they did it on paper, and the idea was him drawing these plans, and then they built this whole apparatus that held the bucket and then a little swinging thing, and totally nerded it up. And then he challenged Elon Musk was the one that I remember he challenged, and he challenged 2 others, and I can't remember who they were.
Tim Cook's done it.
I haven't seen Tim Cook's.
What's his face over at Amazon? Crap, I'm blanking on his name.
I know.
We're CEO at Amazon.
We're winning at names tonight.
What is his name? Anyways, the CEO of Amazon, whose name will come to me.
Jeff Bezos.
Goddamn. Jeff Bezos. So they've all been doing it. The idea is to raise awareness and raise money for Lou Gehrig's disease, or ALS. What's interesting is a lot of people have criticized them that, they're just drawing attention to themselves. But the ALS Foundation has been like, hold on, wait a second. Our donations are through the roof. Keep it going. And
this time last year, they hadn't quite made it to $1 million. This year, they're at like $18 million or something ridiculous.
And at least the big tech folks who are doing it, all of them are also donating money. So it is,
and that's kind of been the thing I've seen that's been really interesting. That originally it was you either donate or you do the Ice Bucket Challenge.
Yes, but most of them
3 other people
realized how dumb that was,
and so they donate and they do the Ice Bucket Challenge.
They get the attention for it, and they get the awareness, and the tech CEOs get to look good. And I'm fine that they get a fringe benefit out of this, that they get to look good, because the money is actually coming in. Fine, dunk away.
Right. This is like our opinion on the whole Restaurant Weeks thing. Is that I don't care if everybody wins. What if everybody wins? Do we have to have a loser?
They're just getting publicity. Yeah, they're getting publicity, and the donations for ALS are through the roof. So everybody's winning. Yeah, I get it. Like, it's a publicity stunt for these CEOs. Congratulations. Most of their life is a publicity stunt. I would much rather their publicity stunt results in millions of dollars for disease research. Who cares?
Well, and the other thing is that, like, Gates, for example, he's not even in the game anymore. His whole life is philanthropy.
Right, and so this is just... Well, yeah, but part of that is that philanthropy makes him look really good. Right?
Oh, history can remember Gates very well.
Right, and so who cares? Is there an element in self-interest in it? Psychology will tell you there's an element of self-interest in any action you take. Even in altruism, if you look at game theory, self-interest is a part of it because you get a benefit, whether that's money or you feel good or you look good or whatever.
Sometimes it's you feel good.
Sometimes it's you feel good. There's always an element of self-interest. So, great. In this case, since they are donating money and donations are up, everybody wins. That is my thoughts on ALS.
Well, and that's why there doesn't have to always be a loser.
Right.
Period.
Sometimes there is.
But there doesn't have to be.
There doesn't have to be. Okay, so switching gears now that we're 30 minutes into the show, switching gears to our kind of more traditional Techies talking tech tonight. I have finally been granted by the Microsoft, Nokia, and AT&T gods.
The powers that be.
The powers that be. Windows Phone 8.1 and with the Nokia Cyan firmware. What this means of specific interest is I now have Cortana, which is Microsoft's voice assistant product, which, by the way, has the best name because that is your that is your digital assistant from Halo. And we thought that was going to be just a code name, and they're like, no way, they're going to do it because, there was no way. No, it's just called
Cortana. Cred. Too much.
It's just called Cortana. I just wish it was actually Cortana and not just this little green circle. So in terms of being a voice assistant, Cortana works very well. In kind of some side-by-side comparisons with Siri, she generally is more accurate than Siri.
Well, we did a test before the show, and we did it was setting a reminder, and attempted to set the reminder on Siri. Siri failed. I set the same reminder on Google with my hands-free OK Google trick, and then you're all welcome for those of you that are listening to this on speakers, and then Trey did it on Cortana, and Cortana by far had the best response because and then tested on Siri again, and Siri and Google both said, this is your message, this is your reminder, do you want to save it? This is your reminder for this time, do you want to save it? And you say yes or no. Well, with Cortana, it says, you want me to remind you, and then it would read your reminder back to you, and then ask if you wanted to save it.
And Cortana is aimed at being predictive, more like a Google Now. And so she asked me about my interest. When I set up Cortana, she's like, what are some things you like to do? What are your interests? And so
you told her that you like the Astros?
Yeah, and so she auto-populates a news, which Google Now has still not figured out that I like the Astros. So she auto-populates a news feed based on your interests. She works on learning where your home is. But also, Microsoft has this feature called the Notebook, which lets you manage what Cortana has learned about you. And,
oh, interesting.
And so you can you can like tell her your interest, or you can kind of know what she's learned. And so there's this element of making visible what's happening.
So Google does that as well with the Google dashboard, and that was they really started pushing the Google dashboard about 2 years ago, when a year and a half, 2 years ago, when the whole privacy thing like hit the fan. With Google knowing all this information, and when Google went to one login for everything,
Right.
And basically leveraging that Google Now or Google Plus identity, they introduced Dashboard, which literally I can go onto Dashboard and see everything that Google knows about me,
Sure.
everything I've searched, everything,
Yeah.
and I can delete things if I don't want them to have it.
So
Now that just means that I anonymize it and it doesn't link it to my name, but whatever.
Right. Yeah. With Cortana, I mean, I haven't had a chance to really see how use all the predictive stuff yet. Like, it hasn't yet warned me, hey, you need to leave, you're about to be late to a thing. But it'll do what Google Now do. It'll read your email and like populate flight data for you and that kind of stuff, which Siri doesn't do. It's much more towards the Google Now level of functionality.
Which is, Google Now is very functional, and I like it a lot.
And remember, I mean, Microsoft is a search company. And so they have a lot more kind of big data resources than Apple.
Well, and also, yeah.
Not as much as Google. I mean, Google is literally a big data company, and Microsoft is, oh crap, what is it? They are the productivity company for the mobile first and cloud first world.
That does not roll off the tongue. Okay, Satya Nadella, try again.
Devices and services. Like
Devices and services.
Balmer.
That was easy.
Balmer. You can say some things about my man Balmer. That man knew how to make it pithy. Hey, Balmer. Hey, Steve, what are you going to call the operating system? Windows 7.
All right, what's the next one going to be called?
Windows 8.
Well, what are we going to call the mobile operating system? Windows
Phone
7.
Steve, that makes a terrible construction of a Windows Phone 7 phone. Yep. Yes. How would you sum up your strategy, Steve? Developers. Like, he knew he was a salesman. Satya Nadella, engineer. It's very precise. Steve, salesman. Make it simple.
See, but Satya Nadella should be all about the as few words as possible. I'm an engineer, and I'm all about.
No, but he uses few words to
this many words. I always go with this many.
No, but it's also precision. He wants to make sure that he actually names what this is. They are
as opposed to devices and services. Where I went, what the hell does that even mean?
Steve, what does that mean? You're going to do things. Things. Every software as a service. Okay, we
the
got
engineers
that.
will figure it out.
And we're going to buy hardware companies. Okay, we got that, Steve. And magic's going to happen, and it'll all work together.
We'll synergize.
We'll synergize. And it'll be great. So I'm looking forward. I'll kind of check in more with Siri, with Cortana as I kind of spend more time with her. But I've been impressed with. So like I can set a reminder, not just so I can set geofenced reminders. So I need to buy a universal remote control, and so I said, "Hey Cortana, remind me to buy a universal remote control next time I'm at Walmart." And then she popped up a list of Walmarts near me and said, you had an option, any Walmart. And so she's not only going to notice, she'll notice the GPS data that you're now in a Walmart and pop up this reminder based on the integrated maps data.
I'm going to see what Google does with that. Okay, Google. Remind me to buy a universal remote the next time I'm at Walmart.
Here's your reminder for Walmart Pharmacy. Do you want to set it?
No.
So it couldn't quite parse that.
Well, it says Walmart Pharmacy because sometimes, and it gives me a drop down. I can pick different places, but it says all locations.
Okay, so it does have the all. Okay, so that's the same.
There's a when and a where on reminders.
So Cortana gave me a similar option. It was like I could pick from a list of Walmarts near me, and up in where I work, there are several Walmarts near me, or I could do any Walmart location. I like that level of data integration, and Siri doesn't have. And this is it's more functional than Siri. I've been saying this for years. Yeah, it's too blurry.
Figure its life out.
Excuse me.
Yeah,
I see it. Yeah.
right before I went to sleep.
I've been saying this for years that, or at least 2 years, that what Windows Phone is it's the balance between Google and Apple. It's the simplicity of Apple with the increased functionality of Google.
Trying to fix my white balance.
Hold up a white sheet of paper and lower it down. This is how you do white balance. White sheet of paper, good. Lower it down. White balance fixed. C'est magique. That's a really old trick, but it's
Shut up.
So on that
I
note,
do know that trick for photography, but yes.
Yeah. So on that note, we should probably get out of here. Thank you so much for joining us in this combined episode of Techies Talking Tech Night and
You're all welcome.
Tech's Last Call. If you have any feedback for us, podcast at techslastcall.com, facebook.com/techslastcall, pinterest.com/techslastcall, or at techslastcall on the Twitters. Good night.